Welcome to Toffee TV. Today I am joined by former Everton captain, a man who played 89 times for the Blues, scoring 11 goals in all competitions. In my opinion, his stay was far too brief. But I am joined by the man, Don Hutchison. What a man. Don, welcome to Toffee TV.
How you doing? You okay?
Good, mate, I'm good. All the better for talking to you today. Gonna have a chat, get into...
Yeah.
Well, hopefully solve a problem that has been in my head since 2000.
Yeah, it's looking good, mate. Nice to see them retro Everton shirts behind you as well. It's like the football season's coming back all of a sudden, isn't it? Yeah, I had a great time, mate. I mean, I had a wonderful time at Everton. I think it's probably where I was probably most settled. I was fittest. I had my head screwed on when I was at Liverpool as a youngster. I was daft as a brush, and I lived my lifestyle like a 19-year-old. But once I got to Everton later on, I felt as though I was comfortable in my own skin, and I felt as though playing for the Evertonians was emotional, which is always great. I always say, even now when I commentate on Everton games at Goodison, it's how the players should play. They should play with emotion, because it's probably the only ground in the country that I think is really emotional when you play at home. The rest are brilliant stadiums and cracking atmospheres, but Everton's got something special about it. Well, the move came about. We lost in the playoff final against Crystal Palace for Sheffield United when David Hopkins scored in the last minute of the game, and I dislocated my shoulder and got stretchered off. So that summer I was in rehab. And then in that summer, Howard obviously left Sheffield United to go back to Everton, and then he took, which surprised me, he took Carl Tyler and Mitch Ward, who are great lads and good footballers. But I was a little bit envious. So you often hear about tales and stories when managers were tapping players up, and you probably still hear the stories now about managers tapping players up. It was the complete opposite with me. I was tapping up Howard every single day, saying, "Howard, you've took Mitch and you've took Carl Tyler. Is there any chance?" And he's going, "Oh, you're going to have to bide your time. Like, we haven't got loads of money." And I've gone, "No, you can't give me that one when you took Carl Tyler and Mitch Ward." So my agent, Rachel Anderson at the time, who was a fantastic agent for me, I said, "Rachel," I went, "get into Howard." I went, "You know what to do. Take him out for a dinner or two. Take him out for a glass of wine. Try and smooth talk him a little bit." And that's how the move came around. I was desperate to come to Everton. Honestly, I was just sitting there. I was rehabbing all the time. And once I got fit, I was like, "Rachel, get into Howard for me."
Do you think if you wouldn't have done that injury in the playoffs, do you think you might have got there a bit earlier?
Maybe. I couldn't say what was on Howard's mind. I mean, I'd like to think so, because me and Howard, as you know, were really, really close and super tight, and our relationship was just spectacular. So I'd like to think without the injury, I would have been, and I'm not being big-headed, but I'd like to think, we had the relationship where he might have took me a lot earlier. But maybe it was a case of Howard needed to fill those positions. Maybe Carl Tyler was, a centre-half who had a good left foot, dominant in the air, could play left-back, he could play in a three. Mitch was a really good crosser of the ball, really underrated. Didn't get too many appearances for Everton, but a great player for Sheffield, because his talent was... He wasn't the most spectacular player in the world, Mitch, but he was honest as the day's long. He had a great attitude, great to have around in the dressing room. But actually on the pitch, he could play right back, he could play a little bit higher up, and his crossing was brilliant.
Before you come, was there any reservations about coming because you've been at Liverpool, or none whatsoever?
No, you know me. The bigger the challenge, the more I want to accept it. I was telling someone the other day, someone went, "I didn't realise you played for Liverpool and Everton." I went, "Oh, that's not the whole story." I went, "Listen, I was born in Gateshead, supported Newcastle but played for Sunderland and scored against Newcastle. Born in England, played for Scotland. Played for West Ham, played against Millwall, played loads of London derbies, and obviously Liverpool, Everton." So it was one of them when I knew the move was going to happen. I just couldn't wait. I felt as though I loved my time on Merseyside when I was at Liverpool. I lived in the Albert Dock, which was great for a single lad. Good bars around there, but great Italian restaurants as well. And I love Scouse. I still do, because I try and look at who's got the sort of similar humour, and I always liken Geordies to Scousers. The football clubs are big football clubs. Just Newcastle has not got the history and the heritage of both Liverpool and Everton, but there's a connection there, I think, and I think Scousers and Geordies especially, I think they get on really well.
Yeah, I mean, you made your debut against Newcastle, your club, for us, and then it was a 0-0, wasn't it? And then you played every game till the end of the season, but next week, trying to really cement your relationship with the Evertonians, and you missed the penalty at Southampton.
I did. Do you know penalties? I was never comfortable with penalties. I don't know what it was about them. I remember chatting to Adrian Heath, and I took penalties at Sheffield, and I was all right. I'm no idea what my percentage rate would be, but I said to Inchie, well, what's happening with pens? I went, I've just got like I don't like them. There's too much sort of pressure because you're expected to score. And then Inchie turned around. He went, if I asked you to pass you a ball inside the side netting from 12 yards away under no pressure, or I was standing there and asked you to make a pass out the right wing 12 yards away, how many times would you do it? And I went, 100 times out of 100. He went, it's just a pass. It's just a pass into the side netting. But, of course, when you're taking penalties and you've got away fans or home fans and there's pressure on, depending on the scoreline, it's difficult, man. It's not easy.
No, God, no. It's strange to hear you say that because you always seem so calm under. You're great finisher from midfield and really calm under pressure with the ball. So
I always felt when I was the type of player, if you give me too much time, I think I had too many options going through my brain and I didn't like it. Whereas I was quite instinctive. If I had a volley on the edge of the box and it come to me, I'd go bang and hit it. But if I've got too much time on the ball and I've got so many options, left wing, right wing, little ball here, back wing, all of a sudden too many options confused me. I was always the type of player that, and I think all the managers throughout the years have always said to me and every other player, is the first pass you see is the right one. Nice. And that's something footballers nowadays should live and die by, really, because we've got great vision and footballers on the pitch are really, really smart and they see a pass and they sort of ignore that because they think, oh, I'm going to do a harder pass. I'm going to try something a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, definitely. Spot on. It is strange. The more time you have, you confuse yourself. But the instinct was definitely there. Obviously, he scored you. I remember you playing against Blackburn early on, and we won 1-0. It was a big game. They were doing well, actually. They were near the top, and we obviously weren't. And Mikhail Madar, with those flowing locks, scored the winner. But I remember you had got man of the match, and Howard Kendall was talking about you because at that time, I don't think you were in the Scotland setup, were you?
No.
And Craig Brown, there was a lot of talk that Craig Brown was watching you, but that must have given you some confidence after that game, Howard coming out and praising you and saying, I'm sure Craig Brown's watching him now. Yeah,
especially from Howard, because he didn't do a lot of praising Howard. Howard's way, as you know, will be, he give you a look and he give you a wink, and that's all he sort of needed. And he never really give you a rollicking neither when Howard wanted to really get stuck into you. He'd lay it quite thick emotionally, really. He'd say, you've let me down today. You've let me down and you've let the fans down today. And you'd go, that's quite deep, because we can all take a manager, coming up face to face and having to go at you and pulling your game apart. That's natural, that's part of the game. But when a manager like Howard says, you've let me and the fans down today, that's quite deep and emotional. But so on the other side of it, when you've done well, you didn't need too much from Howard. You didn't need him to put an arm around you, which you would. But if he come out in the press and said he played well today, that'd give you a big lift. And especially coming from Howard, it was nice to hear because everyone loved Howard.
Yeah. I mean, we were right in the midst of that battle, weren't we, when you come in and you scored your first goal against Leeds at home, which again was another big result. They were going for Europe. We beat them 2-0. And that what was that like, scoring your first goal, especially at the street end as well?
Yeah, it was amazing. My memory of it weren't the cleanest, I don't think. I think I got a little deflection on the way through, but it just, again, it's scoring at the Gladys Street end. Again, you see all them thousands of fans behind the goal, and it's just, I always keep going back to the words emotional, because I always felt as though that's what Goodison Park was. I played at Newcastle where the atmosphere is quite ferocious, and I've played in London derbies where it's ferocious as well. But then you go into the Merseyside derbies and you play for Liverpool and you play for Everton. There's something different. There's something really different about Everton fans to Liverpool fans. I couldn't tell you what it is. I couldn't put my finger on it. But when you're playing at Goodison, there's an air of, and especially when I ended up getting the captain's armband, when you sort of fast forward, which we'll do later on, it was an enormous sense of pride. But yeah, just playing the home games at Goodison was special. Yeah,
it's really interesting to hear you say that, because obviously not that many have played for both and would talk about the differences between the fans. So it's really interesting to hear that emotional side. Clearly, we feel it. So it's for the players to feel it as well.
Definitely.
It's massively important. I mean, we've got to talk about the tackle at Arsenal. The game was on again last week, and I know you were having a few chats with Ped on Twitter, on our account, about mistimed and all of that. But when you look at it again, do you kind of go,
it's not pretty. I mean, I tell you, the build up towards which sent me into the red mist. So Howard, and you know me, I'll never have anything said against Howard. I loved the man, loved him to death. But before this game, he wanted to play a flat back four and a holding midfield player, which is absolutely fine. But he played 5 centre-halves. So I can't remember the personnel, but he played someone like Dave Unsworth, centre-half at left-back, David Weir, Davy Watson, and another centre-half at right-back. Can't quite remember the personnel. And then Slaven Bilic is a holding midfield player who's a centre-half. So we went into the game like quite negative, because we were all... my attitude was, on our day we can beat Arsenal. I know they were brilliant, but on our day we can beat them. If we go 5 centre-halves against Overmars, Petit, Vieira, Bergkamp, and all the brilliant names they had, if we go 1 down, the chances are of us scoring 2 are zilch. If we go 2 down, we ain't scoring 3 and 4. It's just not happening, not at Highbury. So I was like a bit peeved about when we were sort of setting up and we were working on it. It was defensive, but it was fine. It was Howard's choice. We went into the game, and then what happened was Slaven scored an own goal after 5 minutes. So my head come off, because I thought, what? Like 5 centre-halves, so 1-0 down, and one of the centre-halves has scored an own goal. How are we going to get back into this game? So we obviously didn't, and they were running rings around me, and I was in midfield, and I'm just thinking, I am absolutely chasing shadows here. And the red mist was just coming down and down and down, and it was just getting there where I thought, someone's going to get it. And then I've done a really bad tackle on Vieira, and the referee let it go. He let the bad tackle go on Vieira, so I thought, what's that? So it made me worse, because I thought, right, I'm just going to start topping everyone because my head's gone. And then I can't remember the timing of it. Manu Petit got one, got the ball. It was a 50-50, and I went like, I mean, you've seen the tackle. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's a 10-match ban these days. And the worst part of it is when you break a leg or you hear someone breaking their leg, you hear like that snap of a bone. And I heard the snap of a bone, and then I thought, well, it's not me, because there's no pain. And I thought, it's going to be Manu who broke his legs. This is France. This is just before France '98. And then what I realised was it was his shin pad had snapped in half. So the shin pad had made the noise of like a broken bone. And I was like, oh. And then Manu sort of walked off, and he chucked his shin pad, and he just walked straight down the tunnel, because they were winning 3 or 4 at the time, and he made Arsene Wenger make a change. But that's the sort of backstory of it, where I was fuming before the game, fuming going into it, 1-0 down, knowing we got no chance, getting rings, getting torn apart, and I just thought, right, my head's gone. How I never got sent off, I'll never know.
I was going to say, if you were co-commentating now, I'm sure you'd be saying, got no choice. Got no choice, he's got to go.
His head's gone, 10-match ban, disgraceful tackle, everything. The worst thing was, it was on Match of the Day the other week, and Martin Keown was like saying it was a disgrace. He was the worst in the whole Premier League. He used to punch you in the face at corners.
Keown, I mean, I've seen him playing for us. He was ruthless when he played for us.
I'll tell you a very quick story about how bad Martin Keown was. Obviously, you know him as an Evertonian, but there was a game at Goodison Park, and it was Arsenal versus us, obviously. And Thomas Myra, our goalkeeper, was colourblind. I don't know if you know this, but Thomas Myra was colourblind.
No.
So he's in goal for us at the time. So no wonder we're in the bottom 3. The goalkeeper was colourblind. So our routine was Thomas on goal kicks used to hit like a big diagonal up to me, and I'd win the first flick on, and then we'd sort of play from there. Well, he was having one, Thomas, that he couldn't get no one near me. He said, no balls near me. So I said to him at half time, Tom, is there any chance you can just drill one in my area? I can win the first one. We can get up the pitch and play from there. He went, I'm colourblind. I can't see that. So my head was gone again. So Arsenal get a corner, and I stay up front, and Martin Keown stays at the back, like marking me from a corner. So the corner comes in, and we win a goal kick. And then the goal kick, I said to Thomas, right, make sure you hit me from this goal kick. I'm going to win the first header. So when that corner came in, Martin Keown just punched me in the ribs off the ball. Like, he smacked me in the ribs and proper done me, because I didn't expect it. So I've sort of leant over and bent over, trying to catch my breath. And then we've got the goal kick. Thomas has cleared the goal kick up towards me, and I've elbowed Martin Keown in the face. Uriah Rennie was the referee, and give me a straight red.
Yeah, remember that? Yeah, remember it. But he done you first.
That was from Martin Keown smacking me in the ribs. So when I was watching him on Match of the Day saying that was a disgraceful tackle, I was like, coming from him.
Yeah, he's got no right. Well, you heard that from Shearer. Shearer's the worst. Shearer was, let's not talk about the Neil Lennon incident, but Shearer makes you laugh when he goes on about it. Righty. Yeah. But unbelievable.
But you know what, though? In that era, we all had it in our locker, everyone. Because if you didn't, if you didn't look after yourself and stand up for yourself and go high in a tackle, there was plenty of midfield players like Paul Ince and Dennis Wise, and there was loads of Vieira, a young Gerrard, that all top you. So you had, Keane, there's loads of them, 50 of them in the Premier League at the time. And you had to go higher than, when you were going in for that 50-50, you knew Roy Keane or anyone was going to come in high and late. So you actually had the mindset of, I'm going higher. And you weren't trying to hurt anyone, you were just trying to protect yourself.
I mean, what was the build-up like? I spoke to Gareth Farley the other week, and obviously scored the goal in the game, and he was saying, can't really remember the week, but he remembers you went and stayed in a hotel, which is not something you did before home games at that time. And he said he went over to Parkgate, was it, in the Wirral, and he said it was, it was then he started to feel like this isn't normal. It's a bigger game. But I mean, what's your memories of it?
My memory stemmed from the night before. We were in the hotel and obviously really nervous and couldn't sleep that night because obviously adrenaline's going through you because of the size of the game and what it really mattered to the Evertonians. And then not much sleep. And then Howard done something which was genius, really. And in the morning, I don't know if Gareth told you this, in the morning, he took us all for a stroll or walk, which all managers do. And he walked us to this sort of like little cafe. And we've gone in this cafe, and in the cafe, there was a woman there, and she served everyone scones and clotted cream and a cup of tea. So we all had a scone with some clotted cream and some jam and a cup of tea. And it was Howard's way of just taking your mind off the pressures of the game for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And it was all like, oh, this is quite nice, like a bit of scone, clotted cream, bit of jam, bit of tea, and then you were chatting. So your mind was off the game only for a short period of time. And then the really big thing was when you were on the coach, and I love being on the coach with players at every single club, travelling to away games. But this was like an away game, but it was at home because we never done the coaches obviously for the home games. And then we come down the main street, and if I said to you, and obviously there must have been 20,000-30,000 fans, on the main street as the bus was driving in, banging on the bus, slapping the bus and punching the bus out of pure excitement and joy. The adrenaline was like ridiculous. It was like something you'll never get back. It was like the highest of the high. And you're just looking out the window, looking at, again, I used all the emotion of the fans and the young kids and the women and the men and how much it mattered to them. And a lot of them weren't really crying, but you could see the desperation in their face on how much the game mattered. And then getting off the bus and then getting into the dressing rooms was quite a relief, actually, because it was hard watching the emotion on the Everton fans on the bus coming in towards Goodison. Because you could see it and you could feel it. The electricity in the air was something special and tense. And then you get into the dressing room, then you feel sort of safe because you're in your own environment. And then you know where you are, you know your number, you see Big Dunk and you can see Gareth and the manager's there and Adrian Heath and his coaching staff and all the bottles of waters and Lucas Aid. So you're sort of quite comfortable in your surroundings, you can relax a little bit. Then obviously the game happens and it's just mental.
Yeah, that is really a lot to take in, isn't it? Because obviously when you experience that for like a cup final or whatever, there's a different type of excitement, isn't it? It's come on, we can do that. Whereas the relegation, that word just sends shivers down our spines, but the thought of it and being a player, just looking, and you've only been at the club for
it's because you're not sure, because a relegation last day of the season, you're just not sure what to do because all your instincts and everything you've been taught about playing football is to go forward and win a game. But in this game, you're thinking, well, there's another game going down at Stamford Bridge, and they'll probably beat Bolton, but you can't guarantee it. So we need to better their results. But we don't know what Coventry are going to be like. We're not sure what their attitude is going to be like. So it's that real dilemma of like, what on earth is the right thing to do? And when you step away from it, you go, well, we should have just attacked them and beat them 4-0. But when you're in it, I didn't want to be the player, and that's the 11 of us, and that happens to everyone. Where if I try something and it doesn't come off, and my opposite number scores, my goodness, like the pressure's on. And then you times that by every single player. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, horrible. I mean, Garrett scores a cracking goal, and then again, it is that then, isn't it? It's like, well, a neutral would say, well, Everton, just go on them. You've got them on the rack, put 3 or 4 past them, but you're in that, the pressure, and don't lose what we've got. How's the other game going? Exactly. All of that, it must be so difficult to play in that. Yeah,
exactly. And then you start, which it gives me goosebumps. I'm thinking of it now, where you start hearing the Evertonians singing because they realised, I think Jody Morris had scored for Chelsea at the time, and then you start feeling a little bit more relaxed. So you go, well, that's more or less taken care of. But let's not lose this game because we can still go down. And then obviously fast forward to Dion Dublin scoring the header, and then you're like, and then I think the whole place went silent because you're thinking, well, what does that mean? Because as players on the pitch, you're not sure what's happening. Goal difference, points-wise, it's panic stations. And then Chelsea went and scored a couple more, but that still didn't really matter to us because if Coventry score 1 more and beat us, we go down. So it's just like, again, it was a bit of a stalemate. And I think every time we got the ball, it's so bizarre, is really, because you can watch the game back and you can watch yourself and you think, I'm having a mare here, because every time I got it, all I'd done was smack it 60 yards away. And Gareth Farrelly got it, and he smacked it 60 yards away. And it's like, you got no composure. You don't want to pick a pass and pick another one in case someone robs you or you give the ball. So you end up just launching it. It's like Wimbledon footy. You're just trying to think
away from the goal.
You're trying to think, what's the most basic thing I can do? Right, get that ball as far away from our goal as possible. And then you're like, and then you're just living on a knife edge, and you just, because anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean that's a natural instinct, isn't it? If it's at the other end, I mean, the least dangerous part of a football pitch is their corner flag, isn't it? So, you're keeping it away. I mean, the Dion Dublin header comes 2 minutes after Nick Barmby's missed the penalty, by the way. Barmby slots that penalty. Barm slots that penalty. It's the game over, isn't it? We're done. You've got the last 5 minutes.
I forgot about Barnes missing the pen. Totally forgot about that. We'd have been cruising then.
Yeah, exactly. The last few, you literally would have had your slippers on the last 5 minutes instead of hitting corner flags. But I mean, the relief at the end, I mean, that must have been incredible. I know you don't want to celebrate staying up, but you've just come in and the club was in trouble. So for you personally, there must have been an early indication into how much it matters to us as fans.
Yeah, I still see it every now and again when you're looking at the Premier League years or you see classic games, and I'll never forget the fans running on the pitch. And I think there was about half a dozen fellas, I think, who sort of ran on the pitch, centre circle, gone on their knees, and they were just like that on their knees. And it was like them basically saying, like, thank God, but let's never ever be in this position again. And then obviously the relief as we come through the tunnel, we're like celebrating like we won the league. And then you get back in the dressing room, then you think of actually what's happened, and you think, Christ, that was a scare. And then I can remember looking across to my right-hand side and seeing Adrian Heath and the coaching staff sort of celebrating, but not overboard, just the relief of it. And something didn't feel right, so I walked over to Adrian and I went, "Where's Howard?" And he went, "He'll be in the boot room." So as you know, at the home dressing room, the boot room is the door on the left-hand side. So I said, I'm just going to go and see the gaffer then. So I knocked on the door, on the boot room door, and there was no answer. So I sort of knocked on it again, and I just opened it only by like an inch or two, and it was pitch black. So I sort of knocked for the third time. I went, "Gaffer," and I opened the door, and the little bit of light coming from the sort of the tunnel area shone just quite close to Howard, so I could obviously see what he was doing. And he was crying, and Howard was in his chair in the corner, all the boots behind him, and he was just sobbing, crying. Yeah. And he was in absolutely floods of tears because he didn't want to be the man that took Everton down. That would have been a nightmare for him. And I walked over, and he sort of stood up. And I think I've said it on different programmes. If I could have a minute back in my life, a football moment, just one more minute of my life, it would be that 1 minute with Howard, where the two of us just stood there, embracing each other, and he was just crying on my shoulder. And I was like, because I loved him anyway, and it was like this like, it means a lot to me, but times that by a million for Howard. Do you know what I mean? And my gaffer was like crying on my shoulder, and we had that minute, just no one come in, no one spoke to us, And then he sort of got himself together, and I knew he was okay. And then I walked back in the dressing room, and then he sort of followed me in after about 4 or 5 minutes. But that minute was brilliant.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, the emotion of it is, whatever happened, you know, the fella that played for us, managed us, won the league, wouldn't give us our most successful ever manager. Yeah. You know, and I'd come back at, you know, the last minute to try to, you know, to do it again, and what I think.
And then when Walter come in, he just done a normal training session on, I think, the first couple of days. And then after about 3 or 4 days, or maybe a week, he got the whole team in and the whole squad. And he went, that training you've been doing for this week, he went, I let it go. He went, it was okay. He went, ain't good enough. And we went, what do you mean it's not good enough? He went, I want yous to kick lumps out of each other every single day in training, because that's how you play. I don't want anyone tippy-tapping around each other, pulling out of tackles. I want you to smash each other every single day. Well, we had a dressing room at the time which was tailor-made for that. You know, it was brilliant. We had loads of guys like Unsworth and Big Dunk and Dave Watson and myself and many, many others that loved putting their foot in. And then once that team ethic then come together with a bit of bonding, listen, every now and again it spilled over. I've seen so many fights in training. I've seen Bakayoko standing up to everyone. Mikael Madar couldn't believe what was going on. Big Dunk, as you know, is ferocious as they come. And you go through him and he's got you by the scruff of the neck. But it was brilliant because it was sort of like, it was teaching us, this is what we're going to do in training. And if we're going to kick lumps out of each other, by the way, that's what we're going to do to Coventry and Sheffield United and Arsenal and Man United next week. So it was completely different.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that summer he brought in Olivier Dacour and John Collins. So you've just come in. And then the next minute we've spent, which was a sizable amount of money for Everton at that time as well, to bring those two in. And obviously Materazzi come in as well, who was mad money, let's be honest. But, but I mean, how do you feel then when you've just come to a club, the manager's gone, the new manager comes in, and then he's signing, you know, John Collins was quite a high-profile signing. Olivier Dacour was less so, but was obviously a very good player. So, again, that's another challenge for you, isn't it?
Yeah, he brought me in, actually, when Ollie and John Collins had been signed, Walter. And I sat with Archie Knox and Walter. And he sat down and he went, you okay? And I went, yeah, good, feel good. Pre-season went well, or was going well at the time. And he went, just to let you know, you can phone your agent if you like. He said it quite nicely, and he said you can phone your agent if you like, and you can try and get a move. And I went, what do you mean? And he went, well, you're not really going to play. And I went, why? And he went, well, I've signed John Collins from Monaco, and Ollie's come in, who was brilliant, Ollie. What a character and what a player. Yeah. And he was ferocious as well. And he went, you're not going to start ahead of them two. And I went, Gaffer, I went, with all due respect, I went, if you had brought in world-class players and you're telling me I'm not going to play, I would still fight for my place, but I might accept it. I said, I'm not going to play over Olivier Dacour and John Collins. I went, in my mind, I'm either better or I'm equal, or on my day, I'll give them a good run for my money. I'm not a big-headed player, but I'm standing up for myself here. And Walter loved that. He loved that. And I can remember a week before, my timings are always a little bit sketchy, but I was looking at all the 98, 99, 99, 2000, so they're all a little bit sketchy, the sort of pre-season dates. But I can remember a week before the season starts, Walter Smith puts an 11v11 on, and it was the first team that were going to start the very first game of the season against the reserves and the youth team. So the reserves and the youth team have always got something to prove. So you never, ever let John Collins have a minute on the ball. So I nailed him in the first 5 minutes at Goodison Park. And then he sort of got it. He was quite elegant, John. He was quite easy on the eye, and he was a passer. It was never really his game. And then about 10 minutes later, 50-50 happened between me and Ollie. And I've snapped Ollie in training at Goodison Park a week before the season starts. And he loved it. Ollie jumped up and went, all right. And then another 50-50 happened between me and Ollie, and he went straight through me again. So me and him were having this ding-dong snapping each other with John Collins there, and it was all going off. And I can't remember the timings, but in the end, what ended up playing, John Collins, Olivier Dacour, and myself. So I sort of forced my way back into the team just by not lying down. And he loved that one. Yeah. He loved someone with a bit of sort of balls behind him.
The first game season, Collins missed the penalty, and we drew with Villa 0-0. And then you didn't play till I was looking around the thing. It was like the fourth game of the season you started. We hadn't won. Right. And we went to Forest and won 2-0. Big Dunk scored 2. Right. And then you were in then for the next 9. Yeah. You scored the winner at Middlesbrough in the League Cup for us, come on as a sub.
Right. Yeah,
Scored a goal there. Dunk scored our first home goal in October against United, end of October, which was we scored goals away, and at Goodison we couldn't score. It was absolutely.
It was mental, wasn't it? At home we couldn't score.
Yeah, it was weird, but I mean, the first win at Goodison was we beat Newcastle. Michael Ball scored a penalty, but and Duncan was sold the next day. I mean, what was that like? Because obviously Dunk was he was like the talisman at the time, wasn't he, for that team? I mean, was that a shock to you as a player that we'd sold our best asset, basically?
Yeah, massive. Players don't really tend to look at what the board's doing. Players don't do that when you're in a dressing room. You're looking around your mates and you're looking around and you think, yeah, we've got some good players here. We've got some good characters, youngsters coming through. All the dynamics and the banter every day is really good. There's no clicks. Dunk was always, as you know, a leader. He led by the front. He was aggressive. He didn't mind being aggressive with his voice as well, which was absolutely fine. And then when he went, it was like a massive hole. But it was more of a shock to think, like where we're going. Like, we're bringing in the core, and we're bringing in John Collins and Materazzi, and we're bringing in Kevin Campbell and all these good players. But then sort of our leader, our skipper, like Everton's number 9's gone. Like what does that mean? Are we going to be worse? Are we going to be better? Like, what are we going to change the way we play? Because Dunk was a great outlet and he was great in the air. So it was all, I think, all a little bit confusing. I think at the time we didn't really know what was happening in terms of having a plan.
Yeah. As fans, it was berserk. I mean, we won the next game at Charlton. I think Kadamati scored, and we won 2-1. And Dunk scored 2 for Newcastle on his debut, so that was mad. It was a mad feeling. But we were kind of a little bit lost at that time. And Walter Smith went and got Kevin Campbell from Turkey. Yeah. And I remember at the time when Kev come in, it was a bit of an odd one, but it was like, well, he's a big lad, you know, he's been strong at Arsenal and Forest, and it was like, he's probably, you know, we'll be able to knock it round. Franny Jeffers was just, you know, getting in, and he was a young lad, wasn't he? And it was like, Campbell will take all the weight, and maybe, you know, we'll be able to get something off it, but no one could have predicted the effect they had, especially with you. You two just seemed to hit it off straight away. Incredible.
I mean, it didn't really work on it neither, and it was just it was brilliant to play behind Kev, and obviously Franny was a brilliant young player, had so much potential, and a young Franny coming through into the Everton side reminded me of Rush's runs at Liverpool, where Rush was quite quick, but his diagonal runs 10-15 yards in between centre halves and fullbacks. And I was watching Franny like every single day in training and in games, and all I could see was like a young Rushy in Franny, because he was electric Franny over 10-15 yards and a good calm finisher. And then me and Kev just hit it off unbelievably well. We were on the same wavelength. We liked the same music. We sort of chatted together. We bonded together, and it was easy. Nothing was ever forced. But then just something happened on the pitch between me and Kev where it was I just knew where he was going to run. And sometimes it takes time. Sometimes you have to work on it and say, Kev, on a training ground, if I've got the ball here, where are you going to go on a match day so I can try and have a picture? None of that with Kev. Not one single thing with Kev. It was just like, I know where he's going to be. He doesn't really like to face the play. He'll do it. But if I can slide him down the sides, that's where he used to be. So when I got the ball in centre mid, and I used to have that picture in front of me, and I seen the 2 centre halves, and I seen Franny Jeffers making a sort of decoy run, I knew then Kev didn't want the ball to feet. He wanted it 2 yards either side of him to put him through on the right side as I was looking, or left side as I was looking. And the amount of sort of balls I sort of slid through was just easy. It was all his running, but it was just something that you couldn't bottle up really. You couldn't magic it up.
No, it was amazing for him. I mean, he scored his first 2 goals against Coventry at home. He played at Anfield, we lost, and then you didn't play in that, and you come back in. He got 2 goals against Coventry. We won 2-0. We were 18th that day, so it was a big result. And then you come back into the team. You'd missed 6 or 7 games, I think. You come back into the team up at Newcastle, funnily enough. Right. And we beat them 3-1 up there, and Kev scored another 2. Yeah. And then obviously you were in the team, back in the team, and then Charlton 4-1 a week later, and Campbell gets 2. Yeah. You scored in that as well. Yeah. And then we ended up I mean, just thinking about you two, apart from the Leeds game, which we'll talk about in a minute, that West Ham game at home, the last home game of the season, and we won 6-0. you two, the link-up play in that was just unbelievable. And we won the game 6-0, and it was again another flash of, because Harry Redknapp's team had some good players in it. Yeah. Ferdinand played and everything that day, Lampard. And we went out and smashed them 6-0, and it was like, that's what this team is capable of.
Yeah.
But there's just no like consistency with it. But
it always makes
that was a great performance.
It always makes me laugh, that game, because that was another one where the game was obviously very easy. But a lot of my mates, like John Moncur, who I'd been to West Ham in the 90s, they were in that dressing room in that team. And they told me after the game when we were in the players' bar, they went, "You should have seen Harry Redknapp at half time." I went, "Why? What happened?" He went, "He gave everyone the biggest bollocking they've ever had in their life." And he went, "Do you know who got the most stick?" And I've gone, "Go on." He went, "You." And I've gone, "Hey." I went, "How's that happen?" So Harry's gone in at half time and he's battered everyone. He's went, "That's Don Hutchison." He went, "He's running the show out there." He went, "I sold him." And he used a bit of language. He went, I binned him off years ago. And he went, "Look what he's doing to you. He's embarrassing you. He's making you look a disgrace." So John Moncur said he actually had a real pop at me because he'd sold me. And I was obviously running the show and we're beating them 6-0 and we battered them. Like when you said like young Rio Ferdinand was playing, a good young squad. And again, that game was like, it was everyone. But again, it was like Kevin Campbell. It was just sensational. And it felt as though in the game, and again, they only come across once in a blue moon, but it felt as though, like the Borough game, chances were coming like every 2 minutes. Normally you can watch a game and you can go, "Not seen a chance in 10 minutes, not had a shot on target in 15. We felt as though we were creating chances every couple of minutes.
Yeah, we could have been 10. We absolutely destroyed them that day. And having Walter Smith saying, "You might want to ask your agent, you need a club." You played 41 games that season for us and scored 4 goals. Wow. So that shows the character of you that, other players might have gone, all right, I'll go somewhere else. But in the next game, we went to Anfield and won 1-0. And what's mad, Don, is it's the last time we won at Anfield. You played in it.
I know.
It's
99.
mad, isn't it?
It's incredible.
But what a night that was, because it was a brilliant performance as well. My overriding thing about that, I was disappointed. I was working at Everton at the time, and I was in the next day in the ticket office, and I was talking, obviously loads of Blues coming to the window, and we're like, done them last night and all that. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I'm a little bit disappointed. And they were like, why? And I was like, because that was our chance to beat them 3 or 4-0, because we destroyed them. And they ended up with Staunton in goal, didn't they? Yeah. And we could have, got 2 or 3 near the end. But I mean, what was it like to play in that? Because it was brilliant. A fantastic win.
It was brilliant because, as I said before, I always like to be in the Lions' den, and I always like the bigger games. And when you go and play in a Merseyside derby at Anfield and you're playing for Everton, it's like the noise is just ridiculous and the atmosphere's charged. And I remember snapping Jamie Redknapp early, who was a good pal of mine. So I thought, well, he's going to get it. So he got it early on, and then I'd done a really bad tackle actually on Dietmar Hamann, which I went. It was in the time in that era where the sort of law, which I'm glad it's been changed, where if you got a piece of the ball at the time, and if you go through the man, it was actually quite legal. So I actually thought, well, that's a ridiculous rule, but I like it because I can get the top end of the ball and take a little bit of the ankle in the shin of the player. So I'd done one on Dietmar Hamann, and I went straight over the top of the ball and took the ball, but followed through my studs, and I rocked his ankle. And he was gone for like 10, 15 minutes. He was playing, but he was obviously injured. So I thought, well, as a player, it sounds quite brutal, but at the same time, when I thought, well, I've done Redknapp and I've done Hamann, right, we're going to be all right here. And as long as Kevin Campbell does someone else, and as long as everyone follows suit and we're on it, but we battered them, like you said. We passed it well. We created chances, scored a good goal at the Kop end. And as you said, the way the game was going in the second half, it was leading not to Liverpool get back in the game. We felt as though we were going to get 2 or 3. It was actually the last 20 minutes was quite easy. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, obviously, Franny gets sent off. Him and Sander Westerveld slapping each other, giving it all that. It could have ended 2 or 3, and that was what I was saying, a little bit of tinge of disappointment that was the moment where we could have really come away with a 3-0 and been able to lord it, but then we haven't won since. So
yeah, but it was nice though. It was nice because Walter the next morning when we come in, we normally come in for a warm down and do sort of half an hour warm down, and we come into Belfield, and Walter said everyone in their tracksuits. He went trainers on, tracksuits on, everyone on the team coach in 15 minutes time. at Belfield, and we were like, team cut, like where we're going. Like we normally do a warm down. So you got everyone, but everyone's obviously buzzing and still got loads of adrenaline from the night before. And what he done was very, very clever. Is he got us on the team coach, and the team coach drove us into the middle of Liverpool city centre, and he had like an old school, old fashioned cafe, and he booked the cafe out. And what we done was all the Everton players went into a cafe and had a fry up, and all the Liverpool fans had to watch us walking by, and all us sort of sitting having a fry up, just rubbing it all on the red offs' faces. So Walter was loving it.
You're given the captaincy a year after being told, do you want to get it? Do you want to find another club?
And this is what I mean about Walter, because Walter was a tester, and Walter, I was only finding this out at the time, so he obviously tested me with, you can leave the club, you're not going to play, and I sort of rebuffed that and passed that test. And then I can remember we played a game, I can't remember where it was, home or away, and he come in afterwards, Walter, and he battered everyone. And in my memory of it, and again, it is a little bit sketchy, and the game was a home game, and we drew 0-0, I think, in a home game at Goodison, and Walter took me off with about 20 minutes to go, and the crowd sort of like had a murmur and had a little boo at his decision, because I must have been doing okay, and he took me off, and I remember sitting in the dugout, and for the last 10 minutes of the game, Walter was just staring, ignoring the game going on, and staring down at me to see what I was doing. So I was shaking my head or calling them names or whatever. But I could feel his presence looking at me. So I thought, well, the Everton fans have let him know he's had a bad decision there. So I'm not going to say anything. So anyway, we come into the home dressing room, and Walter comes in and he goes mental at everyone. And he gets to me and he goes ballistic at me. And he goes, how dare you effing shake your head when I took you off? You've disrespected me in front of the fans. And I've gone, to myself, I'm saying, don't say anything. Whatever you do not say anything, because he's trying to look for a reaction. Because I know him now. I know he's trying to prod me. I know he's trying to poke me. And he come over and he's having a go at me. And he's having a go at me. And he's gone and he's coming and he's getting closer and closer. And I'm like, don't. And he gets right into my face. And then in the end, I've gone, whoa. And I've snapped like, what? I went, don't you have a go at me. I said, the Evertonians have just let you know you made a bad decision there. I said, it's not my fault we didn't score. So I've sort of like had a real sort of reaction. With that, it's exactly what he wanted. He grabbed me by the throat. He stuck me straight up against the dressing room wall at the home dressing room, and he's gone, get in the shower, get your gear, and he went, get home. He went, you'll never play for this football club again. So I've gone, I'm in the shower, and I'm going, what did I say that for? Why didn't I just keep the peace? What was I doing? Typical me, like I had a decent game, I'm playing well, I've got in the side, and all of a sudden now I've got to go, and I've got to find a new club. So anyway, I'm in the shower, and all the players start coming in one by one. Gaffer was a bit out of order there. Gaffer was a bit out of... Archie Knox, he's number 2. Comes and has a shower right next to me. So Archie, I loved Archie. Archie went, you okay? And I went, not really, Archie. I went, what was that about? He went, go and see the gaffer. He went, he's in the boot room before you leave. And I've gone, yeah, but. He went, just go and see the gaffer in the boot room before you leave. So as you know, with a Howard story, turned left, I've gone into the boot room, the lights are on. And he said to me, you okay, Hutch? And I've gone, no. I went, what was that about? And he went, would you call Dave Watson, hard man? I've gone, yeah. And he went, Dave Unsworth? And I've gone, yeah. And he rattled off a few other names, and I've gone, yeah. And he went, where were they when I had you up against the wall? Where were they protecting you when I had you up against the wall? He went, you'll be club captain tomorrow morning. And I was like, what the hell? What's going on? So I've gone like from in the shower, never playing again, to club captain tomorrow. And he was like, so basically what he was doing, Walter, is he had me up against the wall, and he wanted Unzi and Waggy, and he wanted all them to come in and go, boo, Gaffer, you're out of order there. But because he was so like this hard Scottish accent, everyone just sort of gone, oh, I'm glad it's not me type of thing. And I stood up for myself, which ended up being a good thing, and I'm getting the armband.
You were the sacrificial lamb.
Exactly. It was like, so can you imagine me? I've got in my car driving from mine to, I lived in St Helens at the time.
Right.
I was buzzing. And it's interesting because I always go back to when Ross Barkley was at Everton, just going off piece slightly, and he had a terrific, loads of ability, Ross Barkley, and as you know, a bigger man than anyone gives him credit for, probably 6'1", and he was playing in the same sort of position as me, and I was obviously watching him, and I was watching the games unfold when Ross was playing as a number 10, and I'm thinking, takes too many touches. Like, he's taking too many touches. Like, just give it first time into whoever was playing up front at the time, and just take a touch and bang it into your front men. And it was this sort of, it was getting to the point where it wasn't just Ross, it was loads of these young players coming through at the time who'd been coming through academies, who were probably being taught to take loads of touches and try like a Cruyff turn, or try a nutmeg or a no-look pass. And the art of the game, or the skill of playing your front man in and getting him goals was going out the game. It was all about your numbers. Like, you know, Xavi was having like a 99% pass completion at Barcelona, and then the English players were doing it and having a high percentage. And I was always, and I told this to Harry Redknapp when I was at West Ham. I said to Walter, and I said to all my managers, look, I couldn't give a monkey's about my pass completion. I went, I'm not interested in having 100%. I said, if you want me to play 100% pass completion, I'll pass it 5 yards to me left and 5 yards to me right. And all the dummies will go, he's had a good game. My knowledge of the game was, I don't mind giving the ball away 25 times if Kevin Campbell scores 2 goals off my assists and we win 2-0, and the most important thing is the win. That's the stat. So I was watching like Ross coming through at the time, and it brought me back to playing for Everton, where I used to just bang it in first time to Kev Campbell or Franny Jeffers. And it's because of that relationship that we had. It was quite easy to play with. Maybe Ross didn't have the players up front where he was confident, or he was a young boy learning his trade. For whatever reason, my relationship with Kev was very, very easy.
Well, Ross had Lukaku. So if you'd have given him them first-time balls, Ron would have scored. So you're right. I mean, that's what, again, as supporters, you're watching players and you think he's overcomplicating his game. He's got away from them with the pace. Just play the ball. And
well, I had a chat with Jody Morris at the start of this season, and I commentated on a few Chelsea games this season. And me and Jody have been mates for years. And I said to him, without talking shop, because obviously he's at Chelsea's assistant, so I wouldn't want to ask too much information. And I just talked about Ross, and I went, takes too many touches, Jody. I went, takes far too many touches. I went, every time I watch Everton and I watch him at Chelsea, he's taken too many touches. And he went, funny you should say that. That's the major thing we're working on. Well, Ross is getting the ball out of his feet and passing it a lot quicker. Now, I don't know if you've seen any of Chelsea's games before, obviously, the pandemic started. He was starting to pass it first time in 2 touches. It was almost like Penny sort of dropping.
He destroyed us. The last game Everton played, they beat us 4-0 and he was brilliant in it.
That was it. That was the game.
So, and he played, one of his passes was, funnily enough, a first-time ball, and I think it was Pedro scored from it. So, for him, hopefully the pennies dropped.
Well, I'll tell you exactly what happened. So we'll go back to pre-season. And Walter Smith and Archie Knox took us to a place called El Choco in Pisa, in Italy. The most beautiful training camp you've ever seen in your life. And all the top teams there. I'd been there with Souness, with Liverpool years earlier when I was a kid. And then you go through all the hotel, and there's a great AC Milan side, the Juventus side, and Inter side. So the place is like this beautiful hotel, more or less halfway up a mountain. And the food's the best food, the wine, the swimming pool. And then you drive on the bus and you go round and round and round. And then they've got the most glorious football pitch at the top. So that was the pre-season spent in El Choco. And I was bugging Walter, bugging him for a new contract. And I was one of the lowest paid players at the time. And bearing in mind, like you mentioned, we had Marco Materazzi and Kevin Campbell and Big Dunk, and then obviously John Collins and Kevin Campbell come in on big wages. And I was on one of the lowest wages. So I was sort of bugging Walter all the time about a new contract. And he was going, yeah, I'll sort it. Anyway, one day in El Choco, we're sitting having a meal in the afternoon, about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And Walter sort of calls me over. So I go over to see him. And he sat there with Archie, and he went, when we train this afternoon, he went, make sure you eat well tonight with the squad. And he went, I want you to come over. He went, I'll be here with Archie on just outside the sort of the eating room, the restaurant. There was a little sort of balcony. And he went, I'll be waiting here. He went, bring me and Archie a bottle of red wine after your meal tonight. So I go back, we train in the afternoon, and we have a shower. I'm lying on the bed. Mitch Ward was our room partner at the time. We're chatting. And then we go and have a meal. And I'm excited, but I don't know what he wants. But I know it's not going to be normal footy chat. So I was thinking it was contract, but I couldn't be sure. He might have just wanted to pick my brains about, starting 11 or whoever. So anyway, I take a bottle of red wine. I take 3 glasses. I take one for myself, one for Archie, one for Walter. He pours them. And I'll never forget it. And he says to me, your new contract. He went, how much do you want? And I went, Gaffer, I'm not greedy. I went, I don't know what the big boys are on. I said, I'm not too fussed about what the big lads are on. I said, all the lads that are on huge wages. I went, but I'm one of the lowest paid players here. And then he said to me, because he rattled off all the lads' wages, and then he said to me, and I'll never forget it, he went, would you be happy with what Nick Barmby's earning? So I went, what's he earning? So he told me. And I went, absolutely. So it was nowhere near, the 25s and the 30s where all the big boys were earning. Barnes was on about sort of 14, 15, and I was on 5 at the time, and I went, 100%. So I drank a bit of red wine, I shook Archie's hand, and then we fast forward where I'm trying to get my agent involved with Michael Dunford, who was the chief exec at the time, and Walter. So we fast forward to that period of the season. And you correct me if I'm wrong, but my memory of it was there was a Thursday, 2 days before a West Ham game away from home, and the meeting's set up, and I'm in the meeting sat here, my agent Rachel Anderson sat there, Walter Smith's in front of me, and Michael Dunford's there. So we know Nick Barmby's wages. I've shook hands. I've told Rachel, I went, listen, if you can get any more, great. I said, I'm not bothered. I've shook Walter's hand. I went, we're talking Nick Barmby's wages, 16 a week. I went, I'm happy. 4-year contract, done. Just get it signed. So as they're negotiating the contract, Michael Dunford doesn't go any higher than 8. So he's on 8, and then I'm thinking, right, here we go. So Rachel's going to ask for 30. They're going to say no. They're going to come to 16. Job done. Typical sort of bartering. Because me and Walter have had the conversation. We know the wages. So So Dunford then says we are not going to go any higher than what we've just said, £8,000 a week, and I'm on 5 or 6 at the time. So I'm thinking, what? So I'm looking at Walter, but I don't want to say anything in front of Dunford because I sort of respected Walter. So anyway, the next morning of the game, I go to see Walter in his office upstairs at Belfield. And this is a Friday, by the way. I've got my tracksuit on, and the team coach is leaving after training to go to West Ham. So I go up to see the gaffer. And I said, Gaffer, I didn't want to stitch you up in front of Michael Dunford yesterday. I went, what happened there? And he went, what do you mean? I said, well, me and you agreed in El Choco ages ago, Barmby's wages. And he went, I never agreed that with you. And I went, well, you did. I said, and I looked at Archie, and Archie just put his head down. He had his glasses on, and he was doing his notes. So I knew Archie was at the conversation. I went, you did. I said, I took you a bottle of red wine on the balcony. I said, we had a glass of red wine. You told me how much all the big boys were earning. I said, I'm not bothered. We said Barmby. And then he went to me, are you calling me a liar? And I've gone, so now I'm in a position where I'm back to the game where I've got the armband, right? It's a test, right? So now I'm thinking, well, what do you say here? So he's gone to me, he's gone, I'll ask you one more time, are you calling me a liar? And I've gone, yeah. So I've buckled and I've gone, yeah. I said, because we know. And he's gone, throw it again. Again? He's gone, throw it again. He's gone, get your gear. He went, you know the script. He went, get your gear, get in your car. He went, you ain't travelling to West Ham. He went, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the lads went to West Ham a day later, beat them 4-0, and Nick Barmby scored a hat-trick. Yeah, he did, yeah. Right, so there's me out of the side. So I've gone again. Now I've gone again, right? So I'm out the side. So I've come in on Monday morning to see him, right? And I went to see Walter, and we've had the same conversation. He's gone, listen, you've got 2 options. He went, you can train at Belfield at 1 o'clock in the afternoon when all the first teamers have gone, or you can train at 10:30 normal time where the kids train. Don't know where the kids trained at the time. So I went, I'll train at 1 o'clock on my own every afternoon. So in that 7-game period, I trained on my own at 1 or 2 o'clock every single day, and I trained like a demon behind the scenes. I was on the treadmill, I was lifting weights, I was doing running, couldn't do any football because I was on my own. And then we play Leicester away, if you fast forward them sort of 7 games, and Everton had loads of injuries at the time, and he called me back into the squad. And I scored, I think we drew 1-1. You scored, yeah. In the yellow shirt, and then that was me back into the side. But I had to spend 5-6 weeks training on my own. On your own. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And it was like... Absolutely. And it was like, how can I make that? I can't make that up, what happened in El Choco. I can't make Nick Barmby's wages up. I can't tell you what Kevin Campbell and all the big boys are on. I said, but because you've told me, Walter, you've told me, and we've shook hands on Nick's wages. I went, I can't be making this up. I know you were made out in the press to be asking for mad money, and I foolishly done an interview with the Echo, I can't remember the young reporter's name at the time. If you said his name, I'd remember it. Works for Sky, does a bit of reporting for them. And I was chatting to him because he was like he was like a mate, but I was really naive at the time. I was really naive, and I was chatting to him. And even though we were doing an interview a little bit like me and you are now, I was really open, and I was really emotional, and I was just talking, and I used the word disgraceful. And I don't know why I used that word. I've got no idea why I used that word. And then the headline he used in the Echo was disgraceful, and it was almost like I said the wages they offered me were disgraceful. So now the Everton fans are thinking I'm greedy, but it wasn't that way at all. It was I obviously used the word because he quoted me, but I don't know why. It was just an emotional interview that I was just speaking honestly. But I didn't mean the money was disgraceful. Yeah. I just meant the situation.
Well, a club captain or the captain of the team on one of the least paid is nonsense anyway, and given the value to the team that you were at the time anyway, that's ridiculous.
I think reading between the lines, what happened was when me and Walter agreed Nick Barmby's wages, he then went to the chairman, and then the chairman's obviously gone like, we can't pay this. They weren't flush at the time, Everton. So obviously. Walter's then said to the chairman, look, I've told Don, I've promised Don this, that and the other. And then their relationship's gone a little bit where the chairman said to Walter, you can't give him that. Like, we can't afford it. And then instead of Walter then saying to me, look, Hutch, like, I've dropped a bit of a bollock, like, I've told you, have this, but you can't, the chairman's not having it. And even if you had said, would you accept, like, a little bit more, I'd have signed it. Because I would have knew that was then the truth. But to go the other way, and Walter was he was quite stubborn. He then forced like an argument to put then the sort of bridge between us. And I was like, never needed to happen that.
No. Well, no, it does, but looking back, it does seem that you left the club. Everton have done this historically. We've somehow lost people we should never have lost over things that could have been done better, handled differently. And it's infuriating. But you say come back into the team.
It's funny because there was a game for Scotland. And it was after Walt had left, so it's probably been the year later. And there was a home game at Hampden. And I can remember, I think Sir Alex, Walter, and a couple of more really high-profile coaches were getting their sort of degree and getting some sort of award at Hampden. And he was on the pitch getting his award, and we're sort of warming up. I can see him, and we've not spoken because players, managers at the time didn't have that relationship at the time. So we've not spoken until this time we've seen us. And then I've sort of looked over in the warm-up and he's getting his award, this, that and the other. And then I've gone back in the dressing room, I'm sat in my seat, and then Craig Brown's office was to my right-hand side. And then Alex Ferguson and Walter Smith sort of were walking down the line past the players to get to Craig Brown's office. So it's obviously interesting. He's got to go past me. And I've not seen him or not spoke to him since that day. And I'm sort of looking at him and he's shaking everyone's hands and he's getting towards me. And he just had a massive smile on his face. And all he done was he got my hair and he just ruffled my hair like that and carried on walking. And I sort of knew, I thought, he's all right, really. Walter's good. Like, Walter was a good man. It was just something that just got broke at the time and it couldn't be fixed.
Yeah, which is infuriating as a fan. Mention that Graham Poll decision, which would have give us the double over Liverpool that season as well. And we're in the 90th minute. We're in actually injury time, aren't we? And Westerveld whacks it against you. It bounces back and goes into the Gladys Street net. You're looking the other way, so you haven't impeded him. He's took the kick quickly, and Poll gives 4 different reasons why he disallowed the goal, and he's actually come out recently and gone, I should have allowed it. I didn't know what had happened, so I disallowed it, which is nonsense. So what was that like for you?
I think he had a panic up, Graham Poll, because he was obviously preparing himself and running away from the goal because Sander Westerveld was going to take the free kick. So the referee would sort of head towards the halfway line where the ball's sort of going to drop. And I've been quite cute and I've just got in front of Westerveld and he smashed it off my backside, went in the back of the net. And then he panics, I think, Graham Poll, and blows his whistle for full time. I think that's the mistake he made where, as you said, he's honest enough and brave enough to say, look, my hands up, I made a mistake. And he panicked in the whole furore of the situation. He actually probably didn't know what happened and he should have let the goal stand. But he panicked and thought injury time, best thing to do is blow up. And he blew the whistle. then I seen all the Everton players running towards him. Then I knew something had gone on then.
Yeah. I mean, Sky, he said time is up, and then Sky put the thing up and said it wasn't, it was this, and every excuse he used, it was he hadn't gone there, you know, everything, it just got debunked. I think he's ended up having to go, I'll say it, he done us big time. You don't have to say it, I'll say it, but it should have stood, and it, like you said, it would have given us the double over them, which would have been nice.
Do you remember my game for Sunderland at Goodison? My memory is it's the last day of the season. So I'm playing for Sunderland against Everton. I'm ill, so I've got tonsillitis at Sunderland, and we're playing at Goodison. Right. And Reedy's the manager, and we're going to Magaluf the day after the Everton game. So he thinks I'm bottling the Magaluf trip, and I'm going, Gaffer, I said, I'm ill. And he went, just come. He went, sit on the bench at Goodison. He went, I won't use you. He went, we'll go to Magaluf the next day. He went, we'll have a great time. The season's been great. It's been fantastic. So he sucked me in. So I sat on the bench for Sunderland at Goodison. Something happened in the game where a couple of his players got injured. He put me on. I ended up getting sent off. And I got a standing ovation from the Evertonians. Fancy you getting sent off. So I'd gone to Sunderland, come back to Goodison, got sent off, and got standing ovation. It was amazing. Ovation.
That was your proper goodbye. We didn't get the chance to say it the time before. That's why. And then finally, you just mentioned in there, Carlo Ancelotti. Good appointment for Everton. What did you make of that?
Brilliant. I mean, I work a lot on the Premier League, and I work a lot on Serie A and Spanish football and Italian football, obviously. And I've seen Carlo's sides, always good sides, always normally likes to play 4-4-2, which is a traditional sort of Everton system. And the fact that he's kept Big Dunk on, I think, is amazing. And Dunk's first couple of games and just going very quickly off-piste when he borrowed Howard's watch for his first game against Chelsea was just, it pulled on my heartstrings massive. So it's great to see that Dunk's still on the coaching staff. And Carlo's a world-class manager, and we've still got Bill Kenwright and Farhad Mashir with all his millions. And I'd like to think the club's going places. It's going to be an incredibly sad day when we leave Goodison Park and go into the brand new stadium. It's such a shame. Yeah. And hopefully I've been in touch with a few Everton sort of websites and forums where I think that you can buy a brick with your name on and take that to the new stadium. That's something I'd love to do. So if you can help me out with that one, that would be amazing. And I think Carlo's going to be great. Hopefully he brings in some top-class players.
Don, listen, thank you very much. You're homeschooling and everything else, so thank you so much for taking the time out today. It's been absolutely brilliant and cleared up some niggles in my mind about what happened and things like that. So listen, stay safe. Thank you very much for joining us, and love to have another chat in the future when football comes back and we can actually talk about some footy.
Anytime you want. Anytime you want. It's been an absolute pleasure, and anytime you talk Everton, it does pull on my heartstrings. It's amazing.
Cheers, Don. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. So big thanks there to Don Hutchison for taking the time out to chat to us on Toffee TV. Make sure you subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and if you want to see the full video in its entirety, join us over on Patreon. See you later.